Hey everyone, welcome to Neighbor Science, the only podcast about political economy and anime. We are here with you to figure out which corporations run Venezuela's food system, as well as whether the anime with the horny shark is better than the anime with the horny skeleton. And today we're actually going to talk a bit about the latter. But before that, we're getting into parasocial relationships with our guest, Shannon Strucci. Hi, Shannon.
Hey, how's it going?
Going okay after we solved a million audio problems.
Like I was saying, that happens on every podcast, so...
So yeah, today we're talking about parasocial relationships. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk hopefully a little bit about like how they're used commercially. We're going to be talking about like YouTube and Twitch and stuff. And, you know, those are like the newest, biggest commercial markets, I guess. You know, there's not a lot of new stuff in the world lately, except for like video games and video content. That's about it. And then the combination of the two.
Yep.
And so Shannon made some great videos. I think it's still ongoing, right? The parasocial videos? You're still working on them?
Yes, I am. It just takes a long time, and I need to raise more money for my plans I have for episode 3.
Yeah, so everyone should check out our videos and donate some money to her so that she can continue making those videos, because they are very entertaining and very informative. I'm now a big Bo Burnham fan because of those videos.
Oh yeah. Yeah. See, I think not to give away the whole episode, but I think Shannon needs to create a kind of artificial persona that draws in hapless viewers and listeners, and then you will indoctrinate them with the ideas behind.
Yeah, and then you'll have enough money. People will just like donate money to you, and you'll have enough money to talk about how fucked up it is to do that.
Yeah. You'll be a parable.
One interesting thing about episode 2, again, not to give too much away, of the series Fake Friends that I did, is that at the end I got a bunch of my friends to do a voiceover of like weird, creepy things fans had said about them, or just stuff that I found online generally. And I got people who had their own followings to do it, and then in the comments they were like, I got really excited when I recognized this person's voice, but then I got upset with myself because of it. Why did you do this to me? And I was like, I just thought it was funny to have my friend do this. I didn't mean to give you like a crisis. It was weird.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We should build our societies around this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I also don't want that responsibility. When people are like, oh my god, you changed my life, that's cool, but it's also a lot. I don't know, the whole thing is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to change anyone's life, because then if you get worse later on, you're going to like ruin their life.
Well, yeah.
That's my fault all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just talk about who I am?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
I am Shannon Strucci. I've been doing video essays on YouTube for going on, I guess, 5 years now. I started out doing film history videos, then I started doing a bunch of other stuff. And my best-known series is, like we were talking about, the Fake Friends series about parasocial relationships. I also panel at conventions to talk about film history, film culture, and horror theory and stuff like that. I do short films, and I'm on an actual play podcast called Critical Bits more recently, like a teen superhero body horror actual play podcast.
Yeah, I listened to an episode. I thought it was very entertaining, but I do have trouble following like stories when people are just telling them and I don't have a visual. Mm-hmm. So I was enjoying it, but I was like a little lost just because I didn't have the video element to it. But
well, I did a video of the first episode on my YouTube channel. I made like an animatic of the first full episode.
Oh, nice.
It just takes forever
I'll check
to
that
do
out.
that.
Yeah, because I think I would like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love tabletop gaming shit, dude.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. We were always too poor for it, but I fantasized about having a fantasy tabletop board game.
I always thought it would be cool as shit to have all those Warhammer figurines.
Right,
like every time I went to the hobby store, I was like, that shit is like the coolest stuff I've ever seen in my life.
So expensive.
Like space tanks and stuff. Money. Yeah. Like every time I looked at a figure, I was like, man, it's fucking $15 for this little like
seriously
thing of men, like army man guys.
Yeah, it's almost as bad as Legos.
Which I had a ton of.
Oh yeah. My parents took them away from us when we stopped putting them away, but that's just consequences. But
yeah, we were actually talking about a board game on our last episode, which is unusual for us.
Which
we
one was
usually
it?
get into that. The Secret Hitler one.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever played that? Yeah. Secret Hitler?
I have. I really like the board game Resistance, which is very similar to Secret Hitler, and it does not mention Hitler.
Yeah.
So if you ever want an alternative where you're not playing as Nazis, Resistance is a very... I enjoy playing both of them, but...
Yeah.
I like Resistance more. They're very, very similar.
Right.
Also, for people listening who are into or curious about the Warhammer 40K game and universe, you should listen to one of the latest episodes by Hell of a Way to Die. They go into like the fascist themes and like weirdness of that universe, and it's very dorky and nerdy and fun. But that's just a plug for that episode. It's
Is that the show with Nathan Bethia?
Yeah, Bethia,
Okay.
and yeah. So he has another guy from what's it called? Trash Future.
Yeah. That show rules.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Speaking of parasocial relationships
for free.
Yeah. Hey, it's we got to carry water for our fellow grifters.
Yeah. So I guess if we wanted to summarize like what a parasocial relationship is, it would be like a relationship where it's like one way, like it's a one-way friendship kind of thing, like an imaginary friend, but the imaginary friend is real.
Right. Well, it's kind of like. Sorry, go ahead, Shannon.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just laughing.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were breaking in with something more insightful than what I was about to say, which is like, yeah, I really want to plug this like Marxian analysis in where there's the person, which is the base, and then there's the parasocial relationship and the persona, which is the superstructure, and they control you through kind of ideological means. But go ahead, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just going off.
That's
that
part
reminds me
of it. Well,
Go
there
ahead.
are a lot of different facets to it. It's like,
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
I have a parasocial relationship with Bone, the Thai cat. And I don't think that was deliberately facilitated. I just love Bone.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it almost seems like one of those things where it will almost always exist to some degree. It's just like there's a healthy degree and an unhealthy degree to it.
Absolutely.
Which I'll kind of connect that back later on when we talk about the understanding media enjoyment thing. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely like. I don't know. I don't know who I guess I feel connected to some of the podcasters that I listen to all the time.
Yeah.
Although I actually like try to talk to them, so
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
not in a weird way.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I promise.
I'm not a creep.
Yeah.
Just in their mentions, acting like your friends.
So, like, as far as like different ways that people on YouTube could be like getting an audience or like monetizing their show, like there's like the normal like channel monetization thing, which I think that's just ads, and then there's like Patreon, which is like more common in podcasts, but I think a lot of YouTubers do it as well.
Creators in general.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's like the corporate sponsorship, which is like kind of shadier, like it's usually in the background. Like my girlfriend's really into like beauty YouTube,
Oh.
and
right.
they get sent like products all the time for free. Like some of them have like stopped taking products from like free products from corporations because they're just like filling my house with shit.
Oh yeah.
And like I don't feel good about this anymore. And then like
That's getting weird.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess like for the corporate stuff, you don't really. I mean, maybe you need maybe a parasocial dynamic would help because you get more eyeballs on the show. But it seems like the other two models are like way more conducive to that.
Yeah.
Getting donations from people,
Yeah.
and then just ads, just
Yeah.
like getting people to watch every video that you put out.
Yeah. If I'm understanding parasocial relationships correctly, and we might actually want to go through some of our write-up for the listeners in a minute, but what's really interesting is how like the kind of classic, like the bootlickers that you find online a lot who are just obsessed with like Elon Musk or with a particular corporation and they just worship like
Yeah.
a brand. And I'm like, wow, that's like the apex to me of this kind of weird like fawning relationship with something that is just like
Chipotle is my best friend.
right. And you're like, and what's fucked up is that like now the ads, or like for a while now, a lot of the like the
I guess
the
Apple's
ad
the main
campaigns.
example
Yeah,
of
Apple
that.
was
They're the
a
example of
heavy
everything,
hitter,
honestly.
Yeah. They're just like, we want to create a cult, and
Yeah.
we want you to be part of that cult.
That's kind of died off though, I think.
Yeah, but it's definitely still a bit in the advertising, like where they're trying to like create like a social feeling of a sort.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I think traditional ads seem to be like, oh, this is life fulfillment in like a material sense, like
Yeah.
better living through chemistry and shit like that.
And I remember, like, in the late 2000s, they were, like, very open about, like, we want to create a culture so that people feel like they're part of something.
Yeah.
And then that will, like, drive sales.
Right. Yeah,
It was like, okay, create a culture, sure.
Sure.
And then so that people can feel like they're part of something, okay, to drive sales.
It's like, did y'all see the leaked Pepsi design document about their logo being redesigned?
No.
That was like really weird and
that?
creepy. I don't remember the specifics of it. I just know Neil Cicierega under Lemon Demon did a song called "Redesign Your Logo." That's really good, just about how creepy and strange that specific design document was, and just sort of trying to hypnotize consumers.
Interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
That's like right up our alley. So, I apparently wrote celebrity culture is the creation of
half a
parasocial
novel.
relationships for money, which I guess that's kind of accurate. And Bo Burnham, as you show in your video, became a celebrity who was highly critical of the machinery of celebrity culture. And I think that like a lot of the most popular YouTubers kind of engender these relationships, which again I guess was in your video as well, and it's not an original observation. So they have like these fans that are like really devoted to them, like Murder Brian always talks about how he took his daughter to some like show with a bunch of like a live event with a bunch of YouTubers.
Oh yeah.
And they just like went on stage and like sang pop songs.
Yeah, they like lip synced pop songs or something.
Yeah, they didn't even sing, and they lip sync them.
And then people were like freaking out.
Yeah.
They're like so into it, and bizarre.
Most kids now are just watching like people talk to the camera
and oh yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah,
like that's what they have instead of TV.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems more. It seems like more of a parasocial interaction than like when we were growing up, and it was just characters on TV that like you knew to some degree were not real.
Right. And I wonder about like the degree of what do you call it? Ironic detachment, right?
Yeah.
Between the like say the Zoomers and their kind of like fluff YouTube shows that they watch. Like, do they? I think a lot of them do seem to have that ironic detachment or that kind of like healthy detachment from.
Yeah.
But I think like just like any generation, you know, the media that you're consuming or letting into your head, basically, like you're letting it become real, you know?
Yeah.
To the extent that, again, because Twitter is where we live, like you see these accounts that are like shrieking about, like in defense of like a fictional thing being real and therefore being a basis for like real belief in something else, and you're like, no, like Game of Thrones is not real. Just because it was inspired by something,
Daenerys
it doesn't
is my
make
dragon
it
mommy.
real, right? And that's an interesting like you said, Shannon. There's many angles to this stuff, and so it's interesting how I think you can have a parasocial, like it all seems to rest on fictions and like intentional constructions and stuff. You know, the art of it, the artifice, but it seems like it applies to both. People and their constructed persona, and also what like the characters they perform for like a deliberately explicitly fictional performance. Am I on the right track there?
One of the weirdest things that I like came across was I talked about in Fake Friends too about people who ship the Let's Players Markiplier and Jacksepticeye.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
They also have characters that they play, like evil versions of themselves, that people, it's like the Darkiplier and Antiseptic, and people will ship those, but then they'll ship them with the real people, and there'll be fan fiction with like 10 different versions, like some of them are, and it's just like a very weird, and it's mostly like teenage American girls doing it, and just like completely blurring the lines, in a way that obviously makes them very uncomfortable. But there are
shipping was always weird to me. Like I don't even think I knew about it until like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very new to it, but even with like totally fictional
especially-
characters, it's bizarre.
I
I
don't
think.
think it's weird doing it with fictional characters, because I was never like super hardcore into shipping, but I read fan fiction, and when I watched like Lost or whatever, I would read fan fiction about the characters. I don't think that's weird, but also I come from that kind of fandom background, like as a young woman. Especially it's like in a lot of people who are like queer people or people of color, like there's not a lot of representation for them, and fandom is a way for them to find that. So I do want to push back on like shipping is weird. It's weird when you ship real people who have their own
That is
lives, and
very-
you yell at
yeah,
their
super
girlfriend
weird.
because their girlfriend got in the way of your this fantasy in your head that two straight men are in love with each other now.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting because shipping real people is... Like, I've observed that dynamic in my social circles where there's some person who has a strong opinion about who should go with who, and they try to orchestrate
weird.
that or something. And I'm like, not only is that, like, fucked up, and I hate it, it's very manipulative, and it's like, I don't know what the fuck hole is existing in your heart that makes you act like this, but, like, you need to treat that before you go fucking up other people's relationships or non-relationships, whatever it is. But what's weird is when they do it, and their friendships and everything. But what's weird is when people like that or people with similar tendencies do it with like people that exist but they don't know, and that's like one of those bizarre mutations of the way that people relate to each other. You know? It's like both distant and like disconnected, and also like they treat it as a reality. In a sense, and they manipulate that reality that they're trying to create.
I guess shipping has been around for a long time. They just never called it that because, like, people always talked about like big time like Hollywood celebrities, like who they think should get together.
Yeah,
like who's seeing who and everything.
So it's just taking on like a new term, I guess.
Yeah.
See, I never got into fan fiction because like I started reading it and then like somebody made fun of me, and so I was just embarrassed and never read it again. I have a very strong will, as you can tell.
I don't know. I think it's cool when it's not real people or like underage stuff.
Right.
We had to make a rule on the Discord for the podcast I'm on, like, please don't talk about shipping, because a lot of the characters are underage or based on real people. And it had eventually it was like, okay, we have to. Can you just? This is. And I've dealt with it a lot.
So just to quash any rumors, before our listeners start shipping me and Chris, we already are in a relationship, so no big deal, you know.
Yeah. It's called a podcast.
You just deflate it. You take the mystery out of it. So that
that's the legal form of the relationship.
I work with H Bomber Guy, and I get more of them before I put out fake friends too, but I would get weird messages about whether he and I were dating. Or any man that I work with, it's automatically assumed, and then I get weird, creepy stuff about it. Not only is it kind of insulting.
Yeah.
I'm ashamed to admit I asked that of someone once. It was Connor Golden on Twitter, because he lived with Floozy Esquire for a while, and he was just like talking about her.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just messaged him. I was like, hey, is she like your girlfriend, or do you guys just like live together or something like that?
I mean, that's
He's
fair.
Like, no, we just live together. I was like, oh, okay.
that I feel like is a fair question though, because it's like you're admitting there's a possibility of different, things.
Right.
Yeah. And
it's weird that I automatically assumed like, oh, you know about this woman, so she must be dating you. That's probably not a good impulse.
If you don't know someone well, and they're not open about their relationship with someone, to me, it's like nobody's business.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
I would never ask someone, hey, I see you're in a photo with this woman. Are you having sex with her? Like, to me, that's very weird and inappropriate. Yeah, right, but again, it's happened to me, so.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's a kind of paranoid fixation.
Yeah, it sucks.
So, these questions are just okay.
Yeah, we came up with some really shitty questions to ask you, I guess.
I guess the best one I have is, do you think, like, have you ever watched Slice of Life anime at all?
Well, watch what?
Any Slice of Life anime? Like the genre?
Yeah, I used to really like Azumanga Daioh. And some other stuff. I haven't been into anime in a while. Yeah, that's a slice of life series that I really liked.
Like, do you think that those are kind of based on parasocial interaction? Because, like, I don't know, like, on the surface, it seems like something like that wouldn't be very enjoyable unless you, like, feel like you're in, like, kind of in a weird relationship with the characters. Otherwise, it's just like, oh yeah, these people are just, like, living their normal lives.
Right.
That you get really invested in their relationships and their grades.
Yeah.
It seems.
I don't think that's necessarily like toxic, but I would say there's an element of like I want to go through this person's daily life, and I get attached to them, and I get attached to their friends. Yeah, that's definitely like parasocial.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was actually one of the things that I think I like first identified when I came to when I was exposed to the slice of life genre, and I was like, wait, like, but this, I kind of grasped because, like, as a writer, I become very curious about why different genres exist and what they're about and like what their like fantasy fulfillments are and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I heard about and like saw a bit of slice of life stuff, and I was like, oh, this is cute. This is kind of interesting. And like, but I was like, at the same time, because I first you know, I went technical and I was like, oh, this is one of these kind of plotless narrative kind of things, right? It's very experimental. And then I was like, wait, there's something else going on here. Yeah, it's avant-garde, you know, in like this very chill way. And then I realized it was like the fandom with this seems to be like they're bonding intensely with like these kind of ordinary characters. And then of course you see some of the slice of life stuff where it becomes a little more abstract or supernatural as well. And you're like
my favorite show, Mob Psycho 100.
Exactly, which I still haven't watched because I'm terrified of slice of life. But like,
that's so good.
I want to be friends with the Body Improvement Club. Like
everyone does, because they're like the fantasy of the ultimate dude friends, because they're very like buff and fit, but they're so supportive and kind.
Yes, exactly.
It's like no, they're awesome.
It's just like an idealized version of what you want your real life relationships to be.
Precisely. Yeah, and that's
Absolutely
the wish fulfillment in that genre, it seems. You know?
Damn.
Yeah.
I think we got to the bottom of this.
Fuck, I'm actually afraid of the amount of vulnerability I just expressed. You know?
Well, it's like, for me, I really like Breaking Bad when it aired, but now I'm really into Better Call Saul. And Better Call Saul has way less action, right? There's way less, like, there is some, like, kidnapping and explosions and stuff, but it's, the core element of that show is, like, his relationships with 3 or 4 people. And there's some other stuff to the side, but it's, like, people's relationships and what they're willing to go through to try to be successful and whatever. And that is more like slice of life than something like Breaking Bad, but I am so much more attached to it. I think it's a much better show. It's just better written and the characters are more interesting. Because I don't care as much. I mean, I love, like, action and explosions and stuff, but the without getting into spoilers, there's a scene in that show that is just a conversation on a couch that is one of the most emotionally devastating things I've ever seen in a TV show. And I thought that was, like, a really high accomplishment. It's just because I'm attached to the characters.
Yeah, he was in a movie recently, Long Shot, and he was playing, it was like the most exaggerated version of Saul, like, but he was like the president, so he was just like a massive like dirt bag, like didn't really know what was going on kind of thing. It was great.
Well,
yeah,
I also,
a show that sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I've joked on Twitter that Reagan from Mob Psycho and Jimmy McGill are the same person, and I think that's my attachment.
Pretty true.
Anyway, go on.
You know, yeah, actually, one of the animes that I enjoy that's kind of like a mix between, I think it's one of those like combination genres, but it's called Spice and Wolf. Yeah, and it's like a really great kind of blend of like the slice of life where it's like just relationships between characters and they're just kind of like dicking around and doing stuff and like traveling and also like the kind of supernatural, like what it's sort of a quest or like a coming of age sort of self-fulfilling journey kind of story, and then also like these like long expository passages about the medieval economics of their world, and you're just like, this is actually kind of cool. Like,
I gotta watch that for the cadastral survey stuff.
Oh, you did?
I really want to know about the Kokudaka system back then.
Oh yeah,
That's
yes,
cool.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we did an episode about the political economy of medieval Japan.
Yeah, that was the first one I was on. It was, yeah.
So that's what I'm making jokes about here. Okay, so I tried to find like kind of studies of like the business of YouTube, not like the YouTube corporation itself, but like the people that are on it, because like a lot of money goes through it, but it's not necessarily like the YouTube site itself. It's like the creators that are getting it. There's like a whole economy on there.
Yeah.
But it was very hard to find any. The only thing I could really find was the 2018 list of highest paid YouTubers. So
I remember when that list came out too.
Yeah. So I guess we could just talk about that because that's all I really have on that subject. So the 2018 list of highest paid YouTubers. There's gonna be a lot of names that people recognize, I think, and maybe some that we don't. Definitely some that I didn't. So number 10, everyone knows Logan Paul, who made $14.5 million in 2018.
The sighs. We're all just sighing. Like, Damn it.
Yeah. And I think this number includes like merch and stuff. So it's not just like monetization or anything. It's not like that crazy. I mean, it is, but it's not. But yeah, so we all know Logan Paul. He's basically what you get if a hot couch guy gets $15 million in a reality TV level of production quality. And I don't know if he is like engendering parasocial interaction, because I couldn't get myself to watch enough of his videos to tell.
Yeah,
he definitely is. That's a lot of. There's a YouTube channel called Nerd City. That I would be careful with, because a lot of they're very friendly with like anti-SJW centrist channels. So kind of take it with a grain of salt. But they did a video about one of the Paul brothers that was a lot like I don't think they ripped me off at all. I don't think they're aware of my work, but it was very similar to Fake Friends too, and just went through like how much of his video was him asking children to buy his merchandise to be part of like his cult. It's like it's really, really interesting and really messed up. And just like all of the weird and, like gross incestuous stuff in their videos and like weird stuff with their mom. Yeah, but I would definitely say but the thing about him is he is like predatory on like very, very young fans who cannot separate what is an advertisement versus what is entertainment. And the video talks about how on like PBS shows, like if you're watching Dora the Explorer, or not PBS shows, but I guess general children's programming, you cannot advertise for the show during the show. Like you can't advertise Dora merchandise legally during Dora the Explorer. So technically the Paul brothers are like breaking the law. But anyway, that's Nerd City has a video about all that stuff. But anyway, yeah, I would say for him, having watched some of his stuff, it's awful, and he's definitely being very predatory on young children in a parasocial kind of way.
Yeah, that's like 80s kids cartoons kind of shit. Like like the Smurfs and G.I. Joe and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Damn.
Absolutely. Yeah. But legally, you could not have like a literal G.I. Joe commercial run during the runtime of my understanding from the Nerd City video. But he's just talking about, hey, check out my merch, check out my merch, ask your parents to...
Yeah.
I'll link y'all that whenever we're done.
Well, I guess we could really jump on this bandwagon and offer a discount code to all of our under 18 listeners, and really roll in their young money.
Yeah, if anyone wants to nag their parents for a Neighbor Science T-shirt, let me know. Okay, so I guess parasocial, yes, on that one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Number 9 is PewDiePie, everyone's favorite Swedish alien man.
He just keeps digging that hole.
Yeah. Well, it can't be that deep yet, because he made $15.5 million in 2018.
Jesus.
And he's one of those Let's Play type guys, I think. Like, he does like Minecraft stuff. Literally the only videos I've seen of his are the ones where he like says Nazi shit, and then I like go watch it to be like, is he actually saying Nazi shit, or are people overreacting? And I'm like, nope, no one's overreacting.
Like, I think he did more Let's Play stuff, and now he does more commentary stuff. Like, here I am with the news. And he wasn't as bad, but especially as of late, he had Ben Shapiro on.
Oh,
it's like, how can you... Because I watched a lot of, like, edgelord YouTubers, and I kind of sometimes, I think I make excuses for stuff, but at a certain point with PewDiePie, it was just like, not that I was, like, a fan of his stuff, I was just aware. It was like, well, it's not that bad, then it got really bad. It's like, yeah, he's awful.
What these liberals don't understand is that it doesn't even make sense to play Minecraft. Like, everything is a block. In reality, things are not blocks, okay?
Facts don't care about your feelings.
No, he literally had Ben Shapiro record a video for him. It wasn't just him. They worked. Oh, yeah, it's awful.
Did you see that video that was going around Twitter recently that was like someone, I think it was Jack Wagner, put like a filter on Ben Shapiro to make him look like a baby?
I did. I never watched it, but I saw it. I meant to...
I'm sure the filter wasn't working too hard.
Yeah, all the replies were like, what's the difference?
Was it Rob Wisman who made it sound like Ben Shapiro's voice was coming out of a locker? Like he had been shoved in a locker. And he put, like,
I think it was
Rob Wisman or Dog Bunner or somebody. That was funny. I don't condone bullying, but that was funny.
I do condone bullying, but only Ben Shapiro.
Specifically him and nobody else.
All right, so number 8 is Jacksepticeye, who appeared often in your Fake Friends series, which, first of all, very, very strange name to me. I really
what the hell?
was confused by that. It's like, okay, you have sepsis in your eye? Okay.
How charming.
So he, for sure, is like engendering like parasocial interaction. But it seemed like from like your more recent video that he's like trying to back off on that like a little bit at least.
Hopefully, I haven't really kept up with him.
Okay.
Since I made that, but I think it wasn't that he was like, oh, this is exploiting my fans. He was like, this is killing me.
Right.
And I don't have
right.
a life, and I'm very depressed.
Yeah. Yeah, he does seem like a very nice person, like a very like good-hearted person, because his whole thing, I don't know if you saw this part in her video, but his whole thing was like, it makes me feel bad that like I can't be friends with every single person that watches my videos.
Huh. Wow. That's
and maybe
really...
he's like putting us on or whatever, but like,
sure, yeah.
you know,
I mean,
he could be.
he tried to do that at least, you know.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a delusion that anyone could actually do that. He came up, I didn't talk about this in the video, but he actually got famous off of PewDiePie giving him a shout out, so they're very good friends.
Oh, wow.
And that series that PewDiePie had that got canceled because he said the N-word or the kill all Jews thing or whatever, Jacksepticeye was a big part of. So he suffered directly because of PewDiePie's being terrible, but he still like defends him and is friends with him and stuff. And he actually, I have a part of the video, one of my friends, I got him to record the line saying Jack is a cuck from a YouTube video about Jacksepticeye, and that was because he was like, yeah, it sucked that my friend was anti-Semitic or racist or whatever, I'm kind of disappointed in him. And everyone was like, he backstabbed him, he's terrible. So people get into these weird... He eventually took the video down. I don't remember if it was about the kill all Jews thing or the N-word thing, but Jacksepticeye made a video saying, I still love my friend and he's a good person, but this was a mistake. Yeah. And then people were like, what a cock.
Yeah.
Lib cock, stabbing him in the back. It's like, wow.
It's weird how there's like faction splits, like if two like celebrity type people are like friends and then they have some disagreement, there's like this big faction split of like the Jacksepticeye people and the Swedish alien people.
Well, they're still friends too. He was just like, this was a bad thing my friend did, and then he got so much harassment off of it he had to delete it. But anyway, their channels and their histories are kind of intertwined in an interesting way, because Jacksepticeye is like, I don't care if you use they, them pronouns on my mascot, and like, I love disabled gamers, and this, and like, he's very nice and very progressive, and then PewDiePie's like saying the N-word. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Very weird. So, yeah. He made, Jacksepticeye made $16 million last year. These are crazy numbers, man. It's just a 1 year. Damn.
I mean, I can barely count to 10. I don't know how many tens that
We
is.
can do a lot of shit
so
with
many.
$16 million.
Yeah.
Fund the DSA in the whole country.
Yeah, right. I could clear my rent.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 7, I had never heard of. It's called Vanoss Gaming. They made $17 million. So they're $1 million better than Jacksepticeye. And it seems like they do like machinima type like goofing around stuff, which is like, that's pretty fun. But most of these I've only seen like one or two partial views of a video. So I could be wrong about that description of them. Have you heard of them, Shannon?
I think I looked at this list when it came out, but I'm not really familiar with them either.
Yeah.
And that sounds less, like you said, less parasocial.
Yeah, like they weren't showing their faces in the videos that I watched. I think I saw another thing where they did show their faces, but they were just like playing characters and like doing goofy shit. Which I like that kind of stuff. I used to like Red vs. Blue back in the day. I wasn't like a huge fan of like some of my friends, but like they would play it all the time and it'd just be like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like maybe their success is based on a little bit more of like just a straightforward kind of like technical gaming kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just like
it's
just like putting on a play with a video game.
Right, yeah.
That's fun and creative.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah.
Did you watch that G4 show called Portal that was like the whole show was machinima?
Okay.
It was weird. And anyway, there was like an entire like actual show on cable TV that had these different characters in this like universe that was just like recording World of Warcraft or whatever. I don't know why I watched it, but I did.
What year was that, do you think?
2002 to 2004.
First one? Yeah.
That's wild, because YouTube came out in 2004.
Yeah.
I don't even remember like how videos like went around the internet before YouTube, really.
I remember going to the Anime Music Videos site
to
see AMVs. You'd have to download the video over your dial-up to watch like a shitty AMV.
Yeah, like there was like
yeah.
Newgrounds animations, and that was all Flash stuff. I think some people put like real video on there, but it was like, since it was vector graphics, it was like huge, gigantic file sizes, so it was like not practical.
Yeah. This just keeps reminding me. I mean, like we're talking about this like early days stuff, and it just reminds me of like the difference between like the older and younger millennials and Zoomers, and like how we were like, oh yeah, back in the day, you just didn't know shit and you didn't see shit. You just did other things in your life, and like all these young kids are like, how did you not know this? How did you not know that? And you're like, because you don't have fucking Wikipedia. You don't have any of this shit. You're reading books that like racists wrote for you, you know? And machinima was barely a thing, you know? Yeah.
Back in my day, machinima was just playing video games with your friends.
Yeah. Back in my day, parasocial relationships happened in the fucking library, you know?
Damn, it's true.
Yeah, you're like fantasizing about Bob Cratchit or something.
It was a good choice of character.
You know what? I just went with the decent guy that does no wrong.
So number 6 is Markiplier, who we mentioned. He does like kind of like a variety of things. I mean, he does the standard video game shit that like every single person in the top 10 seems to do.
Yeah.
But he also does like try not to laugh challenges, which that was like, I watched that. It was kind of fun to watch, I guess. I definitely wouldn't like spend much of my time watching it, but for doing research, I enjoyed watching that.
Sure,
There was some funny shit. It was funny to like watch someone try not to laugh. He recently started an athleisure brand. I hate that word, athleisure, with Jacksepticeye.
The trailers are so cringy that they
yeah. Just like dudes that wear Under Armour when they're like sitting around like at McDonald's or whatever.
It makes me fucking just insane. Yeah. Yep.
So their brand is called Cloak.
Cool.
And they sell like $35 shirts and $85 hoodies.
God damn it. Why aren't we doing this, Ryan?
Well, we sell $18 shirts.
Shannon, why aren't you doing this? just sell like $300 tank tops that say parasocial on it or something.
Or not parasocial.
Or not parasocial.
Yeah, you get a choice.
Yeah. I'm with parasocial or some bullshit.
Whether you want to lean into your insanity or try to be mentally healthy.
Right, they could be two-sided shirts. Yeah.
So Markiplier, I think, definitely is he like... Because his videos are very much like you're hanging out with your friend kind of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, he's, like, the try not to laugh thing, it's, like, it's all very, like, emotionally evocative stuff. Yeah, definitely parasocial in my, you know, neophyte view.
So, number 5, another person who is canceled for using gamer words, but also the most famous person on here, I think, by far. I knew about him from, like, 2002. Jeffree Star, who made $18 million, I guess, just in YouTube and merch, because he has a cosmetics line that pulls in $100 million.
It's insane.
I'm trying to remember the name of the cosmetics. My girlfriend told me like last week when I brought this up to her, but I can't remember. But yeah, like he started on MySpace, if I remember right.
Oh my god,
he was just doing like songs on MySpace.
I love that.
Yeah. So real throwback stuff there.
Yeah.
Did you ever like see Jeffree Star back in the day, Shannon?
Yes, he is interesting, and that his personal life
That's one
is
way to put
all
it.
over the everything. He did a series of videos with Shane Dawson that was like inside
Shane
the life
Dawson,
of
do you know that
Jeffree
name?
Star. Shane Dawson is another very big YouTuber
Okay.
who's had a lot of stupid controversies about. In the past, he wore blackface and he made jokes about having sex with his cat, and he's a very controversial. That's the guy.
Shane
yeah.
Dawson, sex with your cat, Shane Dawson. Okay.
Yeah, that guy.
Oh, that from like
He and
recently.
Jeffree Star are
Oh, okay.
tight.
Okay, now I understand
Yeah.
everything.
I would say Jeffree Star also.
Sorry,
has
it's just
that
such a
kind of
white
cult of
boy name. I
fans.
just like was like, sure, Shane Dawson, whatever. Like, yeah,
The two first name.
Shane Dawson
Hmm?
is like he's queer and very open about it, and he also has struggled with like eating disorders and stuff. And I think the way he
Hmm.
talks about that stuff is very healthy. But then he's just like a terrible person.
Right. Yeah, I think like this is it. Kind of it makes me think of like my like view of like personal power, which is that like the process of getting power is what corrupts you. Like people always say like power corrupts, and I'm like no, it's the process of getting there.
Yeah.
And then once you're there, nobody says no to you. You know, unless
Yeah.
they're more
Oh, yeah.
powerful than you. Right. And so I think that like this person is somebody who has like like pain and disorder in their internal life, and yet they got this stuff and they got this money and power and this influence and this parasocial thing, which of course like really feeds into like the distortions in your personality or your artificial kind of persona. And then like I can imagine how,
especially like Jeffree Star, you said he was 1 month older than you. Right. And he was famous in like 2001 or 2002.
Exactly, right. Like that's a long time, and especially going through all the waves of like social media development and everything.
You were what, like 13 at that point?
2002?
Yeah.
When like 15.
15.
Wow, that's way too young.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely too young to become famous. Because like if you become like really famous, it kind of insulates you from like developing.
Exactly.
I think.
Exactly. That's why I remember people saying how like, oh, Miley Cyrus, she's actually doing really well for a child celebrity. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, I mean, it's not a bad point, but holy fuck when you put it that way.
Where do we put the bar for that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, they're doing really well for someone who was trapped in a cave for 20 years.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, well, that's a pretty low bar to clear.
Exactly. It actually kind of brings up the question, like, I mean, I think this kind of has come up in celebrity culture as in, like, the lived experience in Hollywood and in similar kinds of sort of micro societies, subcultures, whatever, is like all these people are celebrities and connected to celebrities in some way. They've all got like a parasocial base and lifestyle, and you got to wonder like how much of their relationships with each other are essentially parasocial rather than like, isn't this why they all go fucking insane?
Yeah, there was some drama recently on beauty YouTube with this one of the biggest people on there, Tati, and this guy that she was friends with, James Charles. I didn't really get all the details, but like basically like he like it was like something, I don't know how true this is because I'm always wary of this exact like trope kind of thing about gay men,
right?
Which is like supposedly he was like trying to seduce straight men into having sex with him.
I mean, it is a thing.
Yeah,
that is done by some people. Yeah,
and so like he was like basically canceled for that. He lost like 100,000 followers or something, or 200,000 followers.
Wait, he was
canceled
for seducing other men.
Yeah,
okay.
What was
like
it, like
Tati,
a misuse
kind of
of
like
power kind of thing?
Like I get
the
like if it's like a power thing and that's fucked up. Like I know that like one of my friends in a different city bragged to me about like seducing this married guy because he kind of found like an in somehow, and he like told me how it all worked, and I was like,
it's like people who brag about like being able to hypnotize people.
Right. Yeah, it's similar, right? Like I was like, okay. I mean, I see these things a bit less binaristically, so like I think he just was into you, and like fuck him for cheating on his spouse, but like okay, if that's how you want to see it, like I would cancel somebody for like getting into like a cheating thing as opposed to like just seducing quote unquote straight men.
Yeah, but yeah, it's
this
interesting.
Is like other shit. Yeah, it's
interesting when like they were friends before, and then like Tati made a video about how she's like, I didn't know this was happening, and like I'm not gonna be friends with this guy anymore.
Interesting.
And like, yeah, it's interesting that went that way, and then like the thing with PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye went the opposite way.
Yeah, that is,
which I think is the more common route, which is like,
yeah,
you just like circle the wagons around your friend.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Factional.
But she ended up gaining like a ton of subscribers because of it too. So I don't know. Maybe there was some self-interested element in it, but I don't know. It's impossible to know.
Yeah, and I feel like that's another element of like, probably another element anyway of like the parasocial, kind of the murkiness of it.
Yeah,
is that the line between what you put on and like your performance, your persona, your artifice, and what you really want and feel and think.
Yeah,
is so blurred and so indecipherable.
Because like even in these videos where it's just someone talking to a camera, like they still are a character.
Yeah,
it's just like a character version of themselves usually.
Right. And this is why, like, not to overvalue or like take too seriously like the studies or quote unquote studies, whatever. I'm not a psychologist of like things like psychopathy, sociopathy, etc. But like one of the things that at least I've read about is the kind of the mask of sanity and the mask of morality. Like they try to just like, they don't have like a guilt or shame mechanism, and so they're just like, well, I'm going to act like what people want people to act like, and then I'll try to get what I want. And there's nothing else going on, so they like, there's like a dissonance between what they portray and what they are doing in secret and so forth. And I think that it's interesting how like that's the same sort of thing that's happening with the parasocial.
All I know is True is going to rip on you for that.
Oh, I know. That's
and
what I'm
also
saying.
pretend
Is like,
that he doesn't listen to our podcast.
Oh yeah, no. Of course, True. You don't listen to our podcast. Yeah, and again, like I don't see like a valuable difference between, say, like quote unquote sociopathic performance and whatever, and just like anybody else just performing a thing to get another thing. You know, like it's all just human behavior. We're all just, you know.
We all
Shakespeare
just live in
playing
a
a bit on the
society,
stage, exactly
on this
right.
crazy rock
in
going
a society,
through space.
exactly right. Yeah, and to me, what is important is like, you know, yeah, the consequences of your actions, and like also to some extent your intent, which can be somewhat determined. Maybe, you know.
Yeah, I don't want to live in a world where someone gets $15 million after saying gamer words.
Yeah, exactly.
But we do live in that world.
Yeah, like I keep like. As you go down this list, I'm just like, I wouldn't pay money to any of these people.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is another one I haven't heard of, Dan TDM, which this was the only one on this list where I watched like 5 seconds of it, and I was like, I can't watch this. Because it's just like him doing like video game shit, but having like the most exaggerated reactions to it ever. Like he starts playing it, he's like, oh my god, this is about to happen. Whoa! And like his face is like really big. I'm just like, what are you doing, man? This is not good.
So what I'm hearing is that like he's actually doing that to play to people in the audience who live like that, who just overreact to everything, for whom everything
Make
is
the soy
drama.
face and go, ah!
Yeah, just like, whoa! You know, yeah. Because like there are those people, and like there are people I think who also like find a kind of release in like, again, like we live in a society, right? Like people who find a release in like like allowing themselves to have exaggerated emotion because they're like pent up all day. Yeah, you know. So maybe that's what's going on there, is that he's playing into that. Right. Especially because like the internet and in general is like so often one of those two things. It's either like everything is exaggerated and crazy and like just like over the top, or it's that kind of ironic detachment. Everything's chill.
Jesse
are you
Farrar.
mad? Are you mad? Are you mad? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so
the deadpan, like
like
I recorded a video of myself doing a Bernie Sanders impression yesterday because I was bored at work, and like I was
post this.
I was like kind of put off. I did post it.
Oh, you did?
Okay. Yeah, but I was like kind of put off by like how flat my facial expression is. I was like, man, I have just like no emotion in my face at all.
Yeah. To be fair, consistently when Americans go overseas, people say like that they notice, you know, who's American and who's not, and not just because of like, say, you know, oh, they're white, they must be American, because there's plenty of Europeans and stuff there. They
ask for like Waldorf salads and shit like that. You know?
Well, specifically, like before they do anything, they're like, no, it's actually because of your big cheesy fucking smiles. You know, like you insist on affect, right? In the States. Whereas in many other places, there's some kind of like fairly ritual expressions and but like, you know, you get caught in a photo and you're just like, hi, it's me. You know, like whatever.
I was just gonna say, it's also different when your main audience is 12-year-old boys.
Oh,
sometimes
absolutely.
girls, but mostly
Yes.
12-year-old boys, and so kind of being, I mean, PewDiePie, if you watch his old videos, he screamed a lot and had that kind of overly affected emotional reactions to games. And like people make fun of Markiplier because he cries so much.
Oh, does he?
I don't know how much he cries a lot in his videos, and I honestly don't know if it's an affectation or if he's just a very emotional person, which is fine, but sometimes it might be an
Maybe
affectation.
both, right? Yeah.
Or like you
I
kind
will
of find
admit
that part
that
of
I
yourself
cry way more than
exaggerated.
anyone should. Like,
I mean, that's fine though. That's that's your emotional bandwidth. It's just like, is he doing that so he looks more vulnerable to? Because like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye both have like a bigger female audience because they're like relatively attractive young men, and they're like more vulnerable and emotional and stuff, so girls respond to that. And it's like, how much of that is cynical, and they're all underage, and it's really weird.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it reminds me, again, like, kind of analogizing to the world of, like, writing stories and, like, identifying your audience and being extremely, especially because in the 20th century, writers learned to be very conscientious about, or I should say, maybe not so conscientious, but conscious of and targeted toward a particular market, an audience within that market, and to understand, like, again, this kind of construction of genres and stuff, like we were talking about with anime, you're like, oh, like, I am drawn to and enjoy, maybe not both at the same time with any given project, but I'm drawn to and enjoy writing, like, a mystery novel, and then I make my career on mystery novels because blah, blah, blah. And then you have to understand the kind of people who are drawn to that in that day and age. Yeah, exactly. My mom as well. And I enjoy the occasional mystery novel, but
also
like not...
my mom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Moms love the mystery novels, especially, like, what was her name?
Agatha Christie.
Well, there's Agatha Christie, yes, and, like, Dorothy Sayers, but there was also this woman, Elizabeth something, who did a bunch of, like, Egyptian archaeology mysteries.
Oh, yeah.
And there was, and my mom was like, she fucking burned through that shit. And then there was another one that was, like, based in, like, I think Botswana or something. And it was this African woman who would, like, use common sense to solve mysteries. And my mom would, like, eat that shit up, quote every fucking line in the book to me. And I'd be like, that's cool, Mom. And then, like, and I love my mom, so I listen. But, like, and it's an interesting thing because it's, like, the parasocial is... who was it who regretted? Was it who regretted not being able to form a friendship with everybody?
It was Jacksepticeye.
Right. So this is where there's, like, a kind of a social and maybe a potentially empathic, like, feedback problem where you're manipulating people to get their shit, right? Their money, their attention, and then at the same time, if you're somebody with any semblance of a soul, you're like, these are people, these are souls, these are whatever, and I wish, maybe it's like they have to understand these people, so then they begin to, like, take on that burden, that weight, again, if they care at all. If they don't care, then this is just money, right? This is just a matter of again, it's, you are the ad.
That's what I see the Paul brothers as. These 13-year-old fans of ours are money machines.
Yeah. So it's interesting because it's either dark because they're kind of evil, or it's dark because they're good, but this is how they make a living.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and if you have any level of empathy, I think if you have any level of, like, concern about manipulating people or exploiting people, then doing what I do is just, like, terrifying, because I make my money off Patreon and I'm really conflicted about it and feel weird about it, and so I try very hard not to use the parasocial ways of making money. But sometimes you can't escape it. Like, if you have any of your personality in anything, people will respond to it. I can't just, like, be a robot. That would drive me crazy, too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you want people to feel, like, some connection to you,
Right.
It's just,
or
like...
not feel like I have to mute every aspect of my personality.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the most important thing is just to, like, set clear boundaries, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think he said such in your video.
I'm very big on boundaries, and people get upset if you establish boundaries. They get offended. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll just go live in a cave.
Ugh, right. Why do you have a fence around your house?
Yeah. Right.
So, number 3 is
let's
my personal favorite on the list, actually, which is called Dude Perfect. They made $20 million, which not as much because they share it between all of them, and they have, like, so much higher production value than, like, all the other guys. So it's easily the most dude bro thing I've ever seen on YouTube. It's like dudes in backwards trucker hats doing like super fancy beer pong shots and shit like that.
Okay.
And they have some like Rube Goldberg machine videos, which are really fun.
Okay, that's cool.
But it's mostly just like doing like trick shots and shit like that.
Right.
They have like this big like, it's almost like they bought out an old YMCA center. Like I almost wonder if that's
so
what they
got
did.
a big space then.
Yeah. And so there's like a basketball court and like areas for like beer pong tables and like like a huge space where they can build a giant real life Rube Goldberg machine. And like that shit is fun, I think.
Yeah.
I said it's sort of like real life Wallace and Gromit if they were both in the same frat. Yeah, I don't think they're parasocial at all because they're very much like, oh, just watch this cool shit that we do.
Yeah, it sounds like to me it sounds similar to the Thanos gaming one, which is like we're just doing like a playthrough of like an interesting thing, and it just happens to be something that kind of tickles people's brains enough, you know, that we can make money on it, and we got a following, and like there's it doesn't sound like it's a ton of like this weird, like personality bonding stuff going on. It's just like, hey, look at this cool weird shit that we did.
The only time they're like looking into the camera and talking to you is when they're like, hey, this is what we're about to do, like enjoy the video.
Real straightforward kind of.
Do you think there's any element with like them or the Vanoss gaming people of like, these seem like fun guys who I'd like to be friends with? Even if it's not deliberate or like super personal, that is still the parasocial like I talk about Red Letter Media. They're not personal, but they still have an insane fan base. That is very invested in their personal lives.
Okay. That's a good point.
So it's sometimes it's not even that they did it deliberately. It's like, but if you watch this and you're like, I like to get a beer with these guys, then it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Even if that's only in the mind of people watching it.
I think, though, with Red Letter Media, though, you see much more of them, like, hanging out. Whereas the Dude Perfect guys, it's very much, like, really short, to-the-point videos. They're like, here's the thing we're going to do, enjoy, do it, and then that's the end of the video.
That seems better.
Whereas Red Letter Media stuff, it's like, oh, we're just hanging out and talking about movies with each other.
Right.
It's like less of a hangout thing for the Dude Perfect guys and more of a like, this is our job stuff. And we did this piece of work here and we're going to show it to you.
That makes sense.
I don't know. I could be wrong. I only watched like 3 videos, but they're very enjoyable.
Well, as soon as we see one episode where they're like crying at the camera, then we'll know. We'll know.
Making a Rube Goldberg machine to open up loot boxes. Okay, so number 2 is everyone's favorite, Jake Paul, who made $21.5 million. He is the hot couch guy's younger brother that loves fighting. That was like the weirdest thing that I noticed about him was like, he has a bunch of videos where he's like, I want to challenge someone to a fight. I'm going to see if this person's willing to fight me. It's like, what?
Why?
Okay. Why don't you just go take a karate class, dude?
Yeah,
I'm sure the fights get a lot of it. Because didn't they do fights on pay-per-view?
Yes.
So it's just
he
money.
did like a boxing match.
Yeah, it's like, how much money can I milk out of my fan base? In like new and creative ways.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, that's like, I think that is like the least offensive one, honestly. Like, pay-per-view is a normal thing that already happens. And it's kind of fun to like watch 2 amateur guys just fight, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, as long as they're doing it in like a controlled setting as opposed to just like, hey, let's just go fight.
Yeah. Are you actually referring specifically to the Zizek Peterson debate?
Oh, Lord.
Because that was like a 3-hour amateur boxing match.
We are here in the Japanese suicide forest.
Where we belong.
That's funny too, because like Peterson has a huge parasocial fan base.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only reason he's
terrifying.
got any money at all. Yeah. I think this is actually one of the interesting things about like the a lot of the well actually, okay, slightly deep cut, but like this is kind of one of the problems with like the fascist sort of drive, right? Like the fascist sort of movement, if you will, is that it's so much of it, it's not completely, but so much of it is kind of this weird parasocial, like some alpha, some apex, some idealized figure, your dad, or someone else's dad who you really like, but who you want to be your dad. Yeah. And in fact, as we were beginning the episode, I didn't want to like say this yet, but like I think about especially organized religion as having an extremely like, it's like an embedded abstract parasociality to it, right?
With
like
the Sky Dad.
with Skydad,
Yeah.
right? You know, and like Sky Bro, Jesus, and
Yes.
like, and even in like polytheistic systems, as long as it's this kind of organized thing, you're like, oh yeah, like my blue
Sky
buddy and
Sister
my
Callie.
elephant buddy, and yeah, you know, and like because there's this kind of sense of like you want to connect, you know, it's our nature, but like so forth. But then like you kind of find these characters that exist mostly in your own head, and they exist there primarily in their form because of your emotional needs.
Right.
And that's, I think, what all of this really boils down to in a very reductive sense. But I think it comes out to, organized religion. It comes out to like the kind of fascistic impulses in people.
Basically, living in state society has like destroyed our ability to have normal relationships with people, and so we seek them out in other like unhealthier ways, like an invisible sky dad or a guy who tells you to clean your room and that you're a lobster or whatever.
No, that's not
Well, it's also
possible.
like-
no. States are
Jordan
good, you
Peterson
see.
can never personally disappoint you the same way
Right.
the way that your real dad can, because your real
Yeah,
dad is like
yeah.
human and Peterson
You know-
is just like ideal. I don't like to talk about religion. I just kind of leave that out.
Sure,
I just
yeah,
don't-
yeah,
That's like just a
absolutely, right.
personal. So I am not going to talk about that. But
Sure.
Sure.
even in the original piece on parasocial relationships, I think that Horton and Wool did. It's this idea of like this. I mean, people get canceled and stuff now, but a real person can annoy you, and you find out the bad sides of them, and you have to
Right.
deal with them in real life. But you know,
They don't
I
get
got
to
a lot
edit
of comments.
themselves.
A lot of comments on fake friends too that were like, "Well, at least my fake friends won't disappoint me." It's like, well, that's sad. People were very defensive and angry, but I
Should
think
learn
that's
to
an
live with
aspect
some
of it too.
disappointment, I guess.
Yeah.
If someone hurts you, you're like, well, I'll never be hurt again. I'll just watch YouTube videos in my bed all day. It's like, that's sad. Okay.
Yeah.
If that's the way you want to live your life.
I was going to say about Jordan Peterson with the debate thing. I was reading like people tweeting about it, and they were saying like Zizek was basically like wiping the floor with him because he actually reads books and Peterson doesn't,
Right.
or like he reads books on the stuff they were talking about at least. And
Right.
so I fully expected it to be like the when prophecy fails type thing, where people would be like, all of Peterson's fans would be like, no, he actually is right. People just don't understand why he's right.
Right. Yeah.
But like people were posting screenshots from like 4chan and stuff, and there were a lot of people who were like, he actually wasn't right about some of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we should like read more about the
Read a
things they were
book.
talking about.
Ha. Maybe the world isn't gonna go.
Maybe
completely
Zizek would be
down
my
the
new dad
shitter.
and tell me to clean my room.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really,
right?
it is. It's just like a cult of who owns who.
That
Yeah.
is definitely true. Yeah.
Was it? I think that like Hassan Piker was just on Chapo and talked about that, like doing Twitch and how it's just he's just like kind of like if you have a backbone and you can be funny and charismatic, that's all these people care about. It's not really
Yep.
necessarily about their politics.
Yep.
Yes.
Not necessarily saying
Yep.
Zizek is charismatic, but
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a fun person to watch like speak,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and
yeah,
he's a
yeah.
really like fun character of a
Right.
person.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
his politics, I don't know. I haven't seen anything like good from him.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Well, he gets-
oh, he's a
he gets,
Marxist, so I
like-
guess he's good.
he's like mad about trans people in bathrooms. I remember I read something he wrote about trans people that
I heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
problematic and all that.
yeah, that sucks.
But I mean, it's not like I said.
not
It's all
good at
just like
all.
this weird cult of owning
Yeah.
Yes.
people.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people want to. I mean, this is the left parasocial side of things. Like a lot of people, maybe including myself, I don't know, would just want Zizek to be one of the delightful creatures in Where the Wild Things Are. Like. And you're like, oh, what a nice dream where like I was guided through this wilderness in my psyche by like a strange man who speaks in riddles and Marxian
I was
philosophy.
lost, and this guy with a weird lisp and a coke habit came and guided me
Yeah.
to the outside
Yeah.
the forest.
And like, hey, cool, like that worked out.
So let's get through number one here. We're almost done.
Yeah,
Number one
the most
is
sinister of them all.
yeah, he really kind of is. Like he's okay. So it's Ryan Toys Review, just to get it out of the way.
This is full
I'm not
name.
going to bury the lead. So he's a 7-year-old kid that reviews toys, and like goes to monster trucks and stuff, and like he does cartoons as well. There's like a bunch of like hour-long cartoons on his channel, so they're like putting some budget into this
Wow.
shit. But
This kid does this himself?
well,
Animates and voices these cartoons? That's amazing.
yes,
Wow,
he does.
that's
Sorry, I
impressive.
didn't yes and you.
Yeah.
And he also now has a Nickelodeon show called Ryan's Mystery Playdate.
Oh my god. This kid on Tinder? What the fuck?
What?
No, you said, Ryan's Mystery Playdate.
Oh.
That's basically Tinder. What the fuck are they doing with this child? Nickelodeon is perverting our youth.
Well, that's not new.
So this kid reviews toys,
Yeah, so
does
he
monster truck rallies.
he goes to monster trucks and watch monster trucks and stuff. Like
That's
watches
part of
them.
his channel.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was
just like
I was
going to-
they
going
don't
to see
put this
monster trucks and,
child
like, reacting to
in
them
a
and stuff.
monster truck
Yeah.
and has him drive the monster
Yeah.
truck. Okay.
So I don't know. It seems like very, like, kind of manipulative sort of thing, especially the mystery playdate. Like, just the name of that
So
is like kind of
crazy.
like I want to be friends with you sort of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hypothetically, like a toys review channel, that's fine. So like, oh yeah, kids care about like whether toys are good or not.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like, I don't know. It seems like he's trying to make a connection to the people that are watching him.
Yeah.
So I think he seems like very parasocial. I also, though, I imagine him being like really cute in front of the camera, and then as soon as they cut, he like some meek adult comes over and like sticks a cigar in his mouth and gives him a martini while he angry looks at his phone. He like yells at his assistant.
He's like mumbling like, "Get out of my mentions."
Like,
and
I
shit.
would rate this toy 10 out of 10. And it's like cut, and it's like, where's my fucking cigar?
I'm 7. I don't have all. Damn. So Ryan's coming up in the world. Ryan's going to be the next Jeff Bezos, huh?
Well, I think fundamentally it's kind of unethical to put a 7-year-old on YouTube anyway,
Yeah, that's
Pretty
yeah.
fucked up.
regardless of how you're doing it.
I think actually maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. I think we should commend Ryan for working his ass off at the age of
Oh,
5
thank
and
you.
6 to like.
I did work hard to
earn-
get here.
to earn to earn
Oh,
the
oh,
like
this kid.
equipment,
Oh, okay.
yeah, the equipment, and start an account on YouTube and do this all himself, and practice his diction, really develop that persona on his own.
He's like the
And,
ultimate pageant kid.
Yeah. He's
Like,
he's
he really made it.
He's a libertarian's wet nightmare, Yeah.
I just hate it so much.
Yeah.
Yep. It's really unfortunate, actually.
Imagine being 5 and getting YouTube famous, and then having your own show
God
at 7,
damn.
and getting whatever
that'd be
you want.
crazy.
And how
Oh
it
yeah,
just
I would
melts your
absolutely be
entire
a moral
brain.
monster.
You will
Yeah.
have no empathy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a miracle any like Disney kids aren't terrible people, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. Or maybe they are terrible people and they just have like better PR than we do.
You never know.
Right?
I mean, they can't afford that, I guess.
Got to maintain the celebrity. Keep them in racing shape.
So I guess the conclusion is, since 8 out of 10 of those were like clearly parasocial relationships,
Yeah.
I would say that you probably will get a lot more money making media if you try and like develop a fan base that feels like they have a relationship with you,
Yeah.
versus if you're just like entertaining from an ironic distance.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, again, speaking more from like Twitter experience, the people who exercise a lot of ironic distance in their account, or whatever, that also have like a ton of followers. Seem to also exercise like calculated vulnerability. I think just to really hammer that home, the drill account is, and probably always will be, like the paragon of that calculation.
Yeah.
Which is, they're like, I'm an idiot, but actually I'm saying a lot of shit, and if you catch it, you get it, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm speaking in subtext, right? But I'm doing it in like the scribbles of a third grader, basically, or like a guy who's just been like huffing glue all day, and so
Did you see his dunk on the anime Nazi from yesterday?
I really want
He was
to
like,
now.
he was like, the anime guy was like arguing about some some stupid shit, and then Drill just replies to him, "Who cares? Pick up a football."
See, exactly. Yeah. And it's made effective because because Drill usually comes off as so like disjointed and weird, and like and then just like comes out and be like says something. It's just like classic jock. Like, yeah.
Well, that's interesting to mention Drill, because recently, because of some project he was on, his real name got leaked, and people just kind of decided to ignore it, which to me is the opposite of like we were talking about. I really don't want to get into details, but like with Red Letter Media's fan base or with other people that I've followed, the second
remember there was like a concerted effort for people to not know his name, like people didn't want to reveal it, which to me
cool, is the opposite, because if with parasocial stuff, people want more and more. They want to get closer and closer and closer and know everything that they can and be very invasive. Whereas with that, they were like, we want to keep up whatever the separation is. This is what we enjoy about your persona.
Right. So in other words, Drill is the healthiest celebrity on planet Earth.
I mean, really, yeah. Like, he does make a little bit of money off of Patreon, but there's no exploitative... I mean, he makes a fair amount of money, I think. But it's because he's really funny and consistently funny. And it's like the product he puts out are like weird tweets.
Yeah, he put out a book of all his tweets
kind of like
recently.
American masculinity. And people love that. And it's not like, okay guys, I had a really rough week. Let me tell you about my personal drama.
Alright, so the last thing that we want to talk about is just One Piece. Because I know that you're a big One Piece fan.
Absolutely.
So I tried to get caught up. I'm still 6 chapters behind, but I'm mostly caught up, and I still like where the story's going. I noticed that, like, I mean, the class stuff has always been, like, pretty prominent in the series, but I think it's getting even more so. Because they're showing, like... Yeah, they're showing, like, the real cruelty that the, like, ruling class can exhibit.
Oh, yeah.
In the latest arc. They're just, like... straight up just like murdering people for like defying them and stuff like that. It's crazy.
The ruling class murder people who defy them? I've never heard of such a thing.
What's like, what is it, chapter like 3, Zoro's being like crucified and starved by Helmeppo? That's more like government, like military stuff. But it was the Tenri, the celestial dragons, like shooting slaves and whatever in Sabaody.
Yes.
That arc, that was pretty like, wow, this is explicit. And Luffy punching one of them out, being like spoilers, I guess. Being a really big... Yeah,
I mean, if you're not caught up to that point, I think you've missed the boat on avoiding spoilers.
There's not less... There are a couple of character deaths you could spoil in One Piece, so I think a lot of other stuff doesn't matter as much. But I think One Piece messes up sometimes with regard to LGBT stuff, or sometimes stuff with race. Oh, it's pretty good with stuff with race, although it's fictionalized races. Like the fishermen. Yes. But class has always been like, rich people are terrible.
Yeah, the Skype arc was really interesting with the race stuff, because it was basically like, can a settler colony like reconcile with the indigenous inhabitants and live together?
And the flashback was really interesting and really like nuanced for One Piece, and very just sort of like the tragic misunderstandings between two different cultures, rather than like these people are stupid savages or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that was very interesting. Not that I'm really in a position to like talk authoritatively on colonialism or anything like that, but it could have been a lot worse.
Oh, we definitely are. So if you say anything wrong, we're gonna just eviscerate you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Mega canceled. Yeah.
Like there was one panel. I have it in the document here somewhere. Yeah. This one about the Paradise Farm that like. I just copied the whole page because I was like, you could just colorize this and it would be like great like communist propaganda poster. It's like they show this like Paradise Farm, like everything's beautiful and shiny and bountiful, and then like at the very bottom of the page you see this like ragged child with their hands shaking, like begging for more food for like all the work they did, and the person's basically like, go fuck yourself, like this is all you get. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. What was it? The Felix the Cat meme where he's like, somebody works all day to produce blah 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 amount of bread, and they can't afford a loaf of bread. This can't be right, and I think that's the economics people should be learning, right? Like people go on and on about these like algorithms of, in the free market and stuff, and it comes down to like, how much do you what do you do and what do you get? That's basically it.
Yeah.
It's very simple stuff,
I think one thing that's really interesting in the latest arc is like they have like at the part that I'm at right now, Luffy is still in a prison, and like the dynamics of the prison are like almost exactly the same as the dynamics outside of the prison. It's just like in prison you have shackles and then outside you don't.
Yep.
But it's still like you're going to be starved every day. You have to work for every crumb of food that you will ever eat. You're just going to get like terrible food, and people are just going to like berate you all day. And if you defy them, then they will like maim or kill you.
Yeah, yeah.
Real Foucault hours.
I was just
in
going to
One
say,
Piece right now. I'm going to splice in that clip from Home Movies where McGurk is just like,
wait, he took you to a minimum security prison.
Right.
Well, that's not scary at all. Those places are like nice.
It was really nice. It was fun.
I know, they're like condos. Rooms with nice furniture and...
A couple people had yards.
Really?
Yeah. It's digital cable.
Was there a pool?
There was a pool.
Yeah. Those places are better than where I live, Brendan.
Yeah.
White-collar prison is better than where I live. That's one of the saddest things I've ever heard.
But, Coach, you'd still be, like, confined, and you'd still be not allowed to do anything,
Well, Brendan, what do I do anyway? I leave my house, I come here, and I go home. I don't know, Brendan. Sometimes I think that we're in the prison and the prisoners are not.
Right. That's weird.
It's like the walls are keeping us out.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Kind of.
We all live in our own prisons, Brendan.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all trapped in these bodies.
Yeah.
You have to go to school, that's
It's
prison.
a prison.
I have to be a soccer coach.
It's a prison. It's conversation.
It's a prison.
It's a prison. Can't get out of it.
connecting back to the parasocial thing, you had a really interesting take on Bartolomeo.
Oh yeah, love that boy.
Yeah, do you want to summarize that for our listeners?
Yeah, I guess for people who aren't familiar with later One Piece, he's like a tremendous fan of the Straw Hats, of the main characters. And what I liked about him so much is that he's like an insane fanboy, but he has his own life going on, and he's not really trying to intrude on their life. He just appreciates them. And,
yes.
and in return, they're just sort of like amused by him and think that he's like funny, or they're kind of put off. But I don't know. Because when I think of fans in fiction, a lot of the time it's like the comic book guy from The Simpsons, or it's like in Sherlock when they made fun of female fans. It's usually very cruel, and I think Bartolomeo. And if you look at YouTube clips of him, a lot of the comments are like, "Damn, that's me." That's how Oda sees us. Like, it's very cute. And he's like a very violent, cruel heel character, which makes it even funnier. He's like Bartolomeo the cannibal, and he likes to scare the audience at the tournament they're at. I think he's tremendously endearing, and I do think it is kind of a reflection of how Oda sees his fans, or how he wants his fans to think that he sees them.
Yes. Yeah, what was the what's the Sherlock thing you're talking about? I don't remember that, because I was into that show until I watched H Bomber Guy's video on it, and then I realized that it was a terrible show.
In season, I forget which season it is. Maybe season 3. There's just like a whole thing. Is his name Anderson? There's like a cop who hated Sherlock, but after Sherlock like dies, he's really sad and obsessed with figuring out how he actually died. And there's like the way that they portray their fandom, sort of, it's kind of like an overweight goth girl who's obsessed with Moriarty and Sherlock kissing, and they like that's to me that's mean. They like queerbait their audience for years and like kind of play it will they won't they relationship kind of stuff. But then when you try to portray that in your show, it's just like she's something. Not only are they making fun of like fat people, they're making fun of the like fangirls and stuff. And I talked about it a lot in my Hannibal video, because I think Brian Fuller is way more of a fan of stuff and way more empathetic and would never ever do something like that. I just thought it was a very cruel, like unnecessarily cruel dig at their fan base. Like, why would you ever think these characters liked each other when there are a million like little queerbaity hints in the show?
You little piggies.
Yeah, the squealing hogs or whatever. When they're the people who keep the show afloat and who sincerely love it. And you're just making fun of young women who get invested in that. And not in an inappropriate way, and not in a way that the creators led them to. Because there are a million moments in Sherlock where they like hold hands or like almost kiss or whatever. But how dare anyone think that anyone in the show is gay? Because I guess being gay is embarrassing or whatever. Even though Mark Gatiss is gay. I guess I don't know how he felt. I don't know. But I think Bartolomeo is a much nice... I mean, they still make fun of him. He's still a weird nerd, but it's endearing.
Yeah. I guess that's another thing that One Piece doesn't really have is there's no real hint of any like relationships between the characters. So it doesn't like
sexual or romantic, you mean?
Right. Yeah, so it doesn't engender
very rare.
shipping as much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Art is kind of made fun of like Hancock and Luffy. It's kind of like a joke.
Yeah. And that's the only one I can think of, really.
So they're all just fellow workers.
Yes.
I like that about One Piece.
Yeah,
Because it kind of like Nami and Robin will never be like a love interest sideline kind of thing. They'll be sidelined for other things like being women, but not in the love interest kind of way.
Right. Yeah, if you exclude Sanji and Brooks, then it's like, yeah, this is how you have a healthy relationship with a female friend.
Oh, I hate it so much. It's such a weird... I love One Piece, but I have such a weird ambivalence about so much of it.
Yeah, we did an episode last year, I think, with our friend Reed about One Piece, and we brought that up, and we were just saying we don't like our least favorite anime trope probably is the hentai character that's like always trying to like zoom on the girls and like see the naked and shit like that. It's like a very like 80s movie, like American 80s movie type thing where it's just like we all realize that it's not okay to. Well, most of us realize it's not okay to do this shit.
Yeah.
And I guess they haven't gotten there in a lot of anime because we also we talked about the same kind of thing in My Hero Academia with Mineta. He's always trying to like look up girls' skirts and shit like that, which is like
fucked up.
Like to some degree, you're like modeling behavior for children.
Exactly. Perpetuating that bullshit. Yeah.
And I was wondering today, like almost like I wonder if Oda, like because this series has been going on for like so long, like if he has developed past that, but he feels like kind of stuck, like doing that sort of fan service because that's like the audience that has developed around it, or if he's just like that still. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know anything about him personally. I know because I did a video about One Piece and how it changed my life and being really into it and stuff, and part of it I talked about... I think
that was actually the first video of yours that I saw, which I loved.
Oh, thank you! Yeah, that the response to that one was really nice. Apart from the people who, like, told me to kill myself because of it, that was kind of bad. That has the worst comments out of any video I've ever made, as an aside. It worse than the political correctness video, worse than Fake Friends 2. The kind of, like, death threat level anger at me criticizing Oda's portrayal of women and LGBT people is the worst comments I've, like, ever gotten. But it's like the thing about where female viewers in Japan would send him postcards complaining about all the women look the same, and he just like made fun of them, like Oda did in SBS. And I was like,
that
thanks.
Sucks. Oh man.
He like I sort of it's like he draws women. He draw like 2 big circles for boobs, then like an X for their waist or whatever.
Yes.
And he's like, he's basically just like, I'm horny and this is how I draw. Just deal with it. Haha. To these women who are like, could you please do something different? So I still like I've been reading it since I was like 12. And it's a big part of my life, but it's frustrating. Especially, like you said, the lecherous character. Because, like, Frankie is so weird, and he's, like, kind of a pervert and, like, a very strange character, but he never makes women uncomfortable. It's like, why can't we move in that direction? Because I love Frankie. He's kind of like comes from being, like, an underground, like, anti-hero.
Is he, like...
Oh, what?
You know, he is like a very like outsider type of person, and he's like wears like a Speedo all the time, like shit like that.
And people are like, "You're weird," and he's like, "Whatever."
Yeah,
I'm me. It's like that's cool. That's great. Or someone like
I'm a cyborg. Deal with it.
Like Bentham, Mr. 2. He's got so many names. Is like such an interesting character because he could be an offensive stereotype, but he's like a fan favorite, and a lot of queer people I know really connect to his character. But then there are some, and they're just terrible. Yeah, I don't know. It's a mixed... One Piece is such a mixed bag on everything except for class. I think it's been very consistent on, like, portraying classism as terrible throughout the entire series.
Right. So, like, a big part of one piece that everyone really enjoys, and it's the same thing with like most really popular media properties, which is like the world building aspect of it. Like it feels like a very full, like lively real world with real people in it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so when I was like looking up like research to talk about for this, I found an article where someone was trying to explain like the general phenomena of media enjoyment. Like, why do people like the media that they enjoy? And the author proposed the theory that it's basically about transportation into a narrative world. So you basically like want people to feel like they are going to this other world that you've created for them. And as like a bit of supporting evidence for it, he pointed out, like, or he or she, I don't know the gender of the author, but they pointed out, like, if someone like interrupts your viewing of like a TV show or movie, or your reading of a book, like it takes you out of it immediately, and it kind of like really irritates you, because it's like I was trying to like be in this other world, and now I'm like out of it, and so you're not enjoying it as much. And I think that could kind of like be the generalized version of parasocial interaction, where it's like in parasocial interaction, you're transporting yourself into a world where you have a relationship with this person that you're viewing. Yeah, as opposed to like a fictional world where it's like a whole universe or whatever. That was kind of part of my joke about, like, in the old days, your parasocial relationships were all in the library. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, but that's some form of it. I think some version of what we're talking about in this episode with social media and online cultures and all this other stuff, seems to have existed for a long time. It's part of our psychological makeup. Because we're social, and therefore we are able to develop the parasocial, right? And so, it's extremely important for creators to be responsible with that. So be a drill, don't be a Logan Paul. One thing I was just thinking too is like the phenomenon of the wikia, like the fandom wiki, where people just meticulously document like every single detail about one of these narrative worlds, and there's just like thousands of these things. Like there was one for Blue Submarine number 6, which came out in 2001, and like no one watched it since then, except for like me and you.
It's interesting. It's sort of a way to give back, or like a way to express in fandom without like making anything yourself. You're just kind of like documenting, like you're a fandom historian. I think they're cool.
Yes, exactly.
When they're not about real people, again. When it's not like in this episode, he talked about his girlfriend, and we triangulated their location to the whatever.
Right.
Kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're like a scholar of a non-existent world.
Yeah, I have one friend. I'm in a long, ongoing D&D campaign, just like in person, and none of it's like put online or anything like that. And one of our friends keeps a detailed wiki for the campaign. Oh wow! And for me, it's great because it's like when I went to college, people would like make a Google Doc with notes and share it, and I never really contributed, but I used it, and it feels like that. It's like I'm cheating when I like study beforehand. It's like, oh, this is what happened last session. I don't have the energy for it, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, that seems like it would be great for something that you're involved in, because like, like we do this show, and like I forget shit that happens on here like all the time. Yeah. So if someone would like meticulously documented every single thing, and be like, I could reference back to it and be like, oh yeah, like this is connected to this thing that we did, and makes sense. Yeah.
Someone there's this other actual play podcast that we're friends with called the Roaring Trainers. It's like Pokemon in the Roaring 20s or whatever. And a fan of theirs just got a tattoo of their logo. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. That's like like someone committing your podcast to their body. Yeah. I don't think it's creepy or weird, but it would be, if that happened with me, I would be very overwhelmed, I think.
That's your thing, yeah.
There's a musician who goes by The Album Leaf. I don't know if you've heard of him, But
I don't think so.
Yeah, he does a thing where if you have an album leaf tattoo, you get into his shows for free.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That makes sense, but I don't want to encourage people to get a tattoo. I feel like that's
Right.
I don't know. That's weird. I don't think it's like bad, but I think if someone got a StrucciMovies tattoo, it would scare me.
Well, do you have anything else?
Well, I'm still trying to puzzle out how we create this parasocial fan base,
Yeah.
and become millionaires.
There's one more thing. A friend of ours who's in like an anarchist anime DM wanted to know your take on the horror themes in the Thriller Bark arc of One Piece. Mm-hmm. Because he knows that you're a big film person. He's like a film person too.
I am a big film person. I think Thriller Bark took the good and the bad as far as horror tropes, because I think the worst scene in all of One Piece is Absalom invisible pinning a naked Nami to the wall of the bath. If you remember that, it's sort of like the helpless woman getting married off, sort of like universal horror film kind of trope. And I thought that was terrible. That kind of upset me, because I caught up during Water 7, so Thriller Bark was or like Enies Lobby, so Thriller Bark was the first arc I was reading chapter to chapter, I guess in like 2006, and it was like, this is it. But then other parts of it are really fun, like Ghosts and Zombies. The subversion of the zombie where Luffy pushes it back into the ground is really, really funny.
Oh, that's one of my favorite jokes ever.
It's a joke, too, to where even if someone's never seen the series, you can just show it to them out of context, and it's still really funny. Because he just, like, walks over and just pushes it back in, like, that's gonna work. And I really liked the Usopp's, where Perona's ghosts don't work on him, because he already, like, hates himself. Thought that was a really cool subversion. And a lot of, like, creepy iconography. And especially, like, kind of Tim Burton-esque stuff. I think, like you talked about Brooke being a pervert, or that kind of stuff, as a woman especially, is kind of a damper on it for me. And I would like to see Oda explore horror tropes in a different arc as well, but for that, I don't know. I liked it overall. It's not my favorite arc. I like the horror stuff in it. I don't know if your friend had any specific questions about specific parts of it, but what came to my mind is like,
I tried to get him to give
and
specifics, and he wasn't able to do it.
I'm trying to think of anything. I like the weird, like, three-headed dot, like Cerberus and stuff. There are a lot of really fun ideas in it. I think something like Whole Cake Island has a lot of horror in it, like Grimm's Fairy Tale, kind of weird.
That's
twisted
true,
stuff,
yeah.
just as much as Thriller Bark without the iconography. That's also a really scary arc. Especially the flashback.
Yeah, I thought Big Mama was very scary in that arc.
She's
like she was
great.
Like this big, powerful, just like unhuman, like superhuman, like power that would just like get enraged over like treats. It's like if John Podhoretz was like Superman.
It's great, and I think she's like, I've complained about female characters in the show. I think she's awesome. I think Pudding is awesome. It's weird that Pudding is 16, supposed to be marrying Sanji, who's 21. That's gross. I don't like that. But like Big Mom's flashback is very
a typical
upsetting.
arranged marriage situation. It's not good, but it's not abnormal.
Yeah, well, they don't. None of the story draws attention to the fact that she's 16, which is weird.
Yeah.
But no, I think Big Mom is very, very scary and a really interesting character. There's a video essay I've been working on about like body horror in One Piece and self-mutilation in One Piece, because it's like a big running theme, especially with the main characters. Like Luffy and Nami and Zoro have like cut themselves or stabbed themselves or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of horror in the show outside of Thriller Bark too.
Yeah. So, all right, Shannon. Well, thanks a lot for joining us. I thought that was very fun. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
So again, check out her YouTube channel. It's StrucciMovies on YouTube, right? Or is that your Twitter?
Oh, that's YouTube channel is StrucciMovies. My personal Twitter is Plenty of Alcoves.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
In Bruges.
Yeah. So great follow. Donate to her so that she can continue with the Fake Friends series. And yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Well, if you liked this episode, find Neighbor Science on Spotify or neighborscience.com now.
NeighborSciencePodcast.com.
NeighborSciencePodcast.com. I'm Chris Nivens at Solidarity_Goth, and this is Ryan Salisbury at Handle of Rye.
Yeah. We never actually introduced ourselves at the beginning, so I'll probably just like splice that in. But
and thanks for listening. And again, Shannon, thank you for joining us, and we'll close it there.
yeah.
See
Bye.
ya.